Hello, welcome to the Truth Revival, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. I'm so excited. I have one of my greatest friends, newer but greatest friends, Rebecca Fleetwood Hession, with us here tonight. I do want to give a shout out to Joshua, my co-host. His mom is a little bit under the weather, so if you pray, please pray for him. We miss him today. But we still wanted to come to you live with Rebecca. She is the CEO and founder of WEthrive.live and has an enormous, amazing story to tell when we talk about purpose and passion and really diving into doing what we're supposed to be doing. You know, having the courage to leave an amazing job to follow your dreams that impact the rest of us, that impact the world. And so last week, we talked a lot about your purpose and your passion, and now that we know how values line up with that, what happens next? How do we put it into action?
That's always the hardest part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key is we spend a lot of time in reflection. We can sit and read all the books and look at all the quotes, all the things, right? But how is that translating into what am I doing today and tomorrow that help me to discover that? So just being aware, number one, and that sounds crazy, right? But being more aware of you, your emotions, your choices, your thoughts, studying you as much as you study other things outside of what's happening in your world, just getting really reflective about who you are, honestly, is step one.
Yeah. But awareness isn't enough, right?
No.
Now that we become aware, you've got to do something with that.
But here's the thing about awareness, and we've talked about this a lot, is we think it's selfish, or we think it's ego, or we think it's not cool to think about ourselves. And so we're always busy taking care of everybody else, all the things, but spending time in reflection to think about, what are my thoughts on this? How do my emotions impact this? What is happening with my energy level? Has to be the where you make it important enough to do it.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about banning burnout, standing tall in your story, and you really help people thrive versus strive.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
It's my favorite topic. So striving is when there's some external thing that you're going after because you think that's going to be the thing that lights you up and gives you joy and fulfillment and well-being and all the things. And you can strive to hit that next goal or get that promotion or move to that neighborhood, whatever it is. But that thing that you go after that's external from yourself is fleeting. Once you've achieved it,
then what?
Then the next day you're like, okay, now what? Because the word strive actually means battle, conflict, stress. It comes from the word strife. So when you're battling something to go achieve something out there, that's striving. Thriving is different. Thriving is to grow, prosper, and flourish. That's internal. Thriving says, do I know who I am? Do I know my unique gifts and talents? And how can I go use those in a way that I can serve another? So that's different.
That's really the premise of what we're telling people through this 4-part series where we're talking about purpose. And our goal with this, you asked what's the whole point of this, is we're really trying to get people on the right track without having to take so many classes and really trying to dig in and help them find their purpose. Like we talked about, we've read all the books. And what it's really boiled down to is taking action and having the courage to move forward. And then it's kind of putting yourself in a community that allows that, which you have done with Rise and Thrive.
Yeah. Well, and if I was going to take a number one first step, sit down and make a list of your unique gifts and talents. And we went through this exercise as part of Rise and Thrive. And here's what happens when I do this with my clients. It's predictable at this point. I'll say to people, okay, let's make a list of your unique gifts and talents. And they do this.
What? I have those?
Yeah. I'm a good mom. Well, that's a role that you play. You should keep doing that. Okay, what else you got? These are really talented people that have done amazing things. And they go, well, I'm a good accountant, or I'm a good lead. Still, that's a role that you play.
Sure.
What are the characteristics, the gifts, talents, and abilities that make you good at those roles?
Mm-hmm.
And it really takes some peeling back to get people to where they can make that list. But to me, that's step one.
Yep.
Because then, when you know what you're good at uniquely,
Mm-hmm.
because God created us uniquely on purpose.
Every single
like
one of
down
us.
to our fingerprints. Like we're supposed to be different.
right.
Not into the die-cast manufacturing of humans. God was not into that. And so we have to get really clear on what is our uniqueness, because he gave us that to go use to serve another. So we've got to figure out what that is.
Right.
And that takes some effort
Yeah.
to do that.
So what you're alluding to is that continuum that we were talking about. So tell our viewers, and if you guys have any questions, if you would like to give a question to Rebecca and talk about purpose and get some things answered tonight, we would love to hear from you. But let's talk about this continuum. How does that work?
So every day when you wake up, your brain has one job. It needs to make sure that you survive and thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere in there is striving.
Sure.
We got stuck there because we've normalized busy. I could go
Yes.
into a whole rant about the industrial age model of education and business that we may not have time for. But
It's another show.
Maybe another show. But our brain wants us to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's looking for those. And the continuum is a way that I've broken down what are the things that your brain is wanting you to do. You just have to step into it. So at the basis of it, of survival, food, water, safety, all the basics.
Yep. Got that covered.
And yet, sometimes we use food and not taking care of ourselves in ways that sabotage thriving, right?
Yep.
It happens.
Thank the Lord for Erica Ballard.
Erica Ballard, shout out. We love her. She's our health coach, our resident health coach
Yep.
that helps us get through some of those choices. But
Food, water for our own personal bodies that suits who we are and what we need.
absolutely, so
Yep.
that we can have the energy to fulfill our meaning and purpose. Because without fueling ourselves in a healthy way, then we're too tired to care, and that's where you end up with season 4 and an empty bag of chips beside you. Maybe I read about people that do that. I don't know. But the next step on the continuum is what's called psychological safety, which is, can I belong?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a sense of I can be who I am? And what gets at us from a psychological safety perspective is oftentimes the voices in our head. Mm-hmm. And they're there to keep us safe, but sometimes they take it too far. So
Sure.
I've named her. She's the little bitch in our head, right? She's the one that goes, I don't know if you should do that. I think she looked at you funny. I don't know what's going on, right? So you got to get past that, because really what that is uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
When we hear that voice in our head, it's this, she's saying, I don't know if you should do that. Because when we don't know what's going to happen, that space of uncertainty, we call it fear.
Right.
But it's not really fear. It's just, I don't know what's going to happen,
Yep.
so it seems uncertain.
Is this right?
Is this right, or is it wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, we could go down that whole education path. We've given this sense that there's always right and wrong answers.
Yes.
That's not true.
Right.
There's often a ton of right answers. But we get that, I don't know if I'm going to do it right, so I'm going to do nothing.
Right.
So we have these beliefs that we've held as truths.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not always true. They're just the way that we calm ourselves in that space of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't get passionate about this at all.
No, not at all.
Okay, and then
It's incredible. Your gifts around this and what but because you've been through it. Because you've walked the walk.
Yeah.
Tell us about your walk. How did you find, because in my opinion, you have one of the clearest visions for your life ever. And you've done the work.
I've done the work. And interestingly, this week is the season. I talked about this in our text stream the other day. It was 6 years ago in this season that God sat me down with the gift of 2 months of pneumonia, so we could chat. Because I had normalized busy and striving, and I was in an amazing career.
Mm-hmm.
I was uber successful. Doing all the things. I lived in this beautiful house. I did all the things. If you looked at my life from the outside, you'd be like, damn,
Get it, girl.
that girl's doing some stuff. And I was, but to my own detriment in a lot of ways. And so I had the gift of 2 months of literally not leaving my house. And so God and I talked a lot.
And what did you uncover in those conversations with him?
That I had normalized busy to the point that I was prayerful, but I wasn't giving enough space to let him answer. Right?
I love that.
So I was asking, busy, but never pausing in that space of reflection to say, what do you want to tell me? So
I love that.
we had some things we needed to deal with.
Yeah, and you're on that path. You actually, so you figured out what it was.
And that didn't happen in that 2 months. That 2 months was really about, Rebecca, you cannot be constantly in motion. That's not thriving. And it's not just about the basic self-care of, bath bombs and booze. That's not real self-care, right? But giving literally that space for God to speak back into your life in a way, that's more about how you get to meaning and purpose, because he has to be able to be informing you in this process, right? So through that 2 months, I learned a lot about myself and some things that I needed to do differently. And over the course of the next 4 years, really made some significant shifts in my life. But when I left my role at Franklin Covey, I sat down and said, okay, I hear you, God. I need to be more intentional about letting you speak into my life. So I started praying for God ideas, not good ideas.
I love that.
And it was the most impactful and maddening time of my life.
I know.
Maddening. Because I'm okay, I got some ideas, let's do this. Okay, organize this. How are we gonna, I'm a go.
All the things.
Go, do all the things. And he told me, oh, hold on. Just wait for it, hold on. And I'd have an idea, and I'd write it in my journal, and I'd pray about it, and then I'd just get the sense of, So I spent a lot of time doing the work, as you said. I worked with my pastor. He has a book called Why to Live For that helped me uncover my history, all the way back to being a child and the things that I was good at and the things that I loved to do. And I just started putting this puzzle together of who I was, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, that's it.
Oh, you made a reference to a puzzle. So tell me about your take on marbles and puzzles.
Oh, marbles and puzzles. So the continuum that we showed, it's reflection and connection. So part of it is we have to look within ourselves, but then we also have to be willing to connect with others in an intentional, meaningful way. And too often what we do is we spend a lot of time polishing ourselves up to make us better and perfect, right? And so if you think about it, if you were holding a marble in your hand right now, it's shiny and perfect and round and beautiful and pretty. But if I took a handful of marbles and I laid them here on the table, what would happen?
Oh, they're going to roll all over the place.
They're all going to roll away. They don't connect. Puzzles are different. If I took a handful of puzzle pieces and laid them here on the table, they have jaggedy ass edges and not sure how it all fits, right? Which is really who we are.
That's right.
The only thing we all have in common is our imperfection, right? So puzzles, you have to lay the pieces out and think, oh, well, how does this piece go with this piece? And how does this piece go with this piece? And it's our strengths and our weaknesses and how they fit together. And the two characteristics of a puzzle, once you put it together, it's far more beautiful and way stronger than it was on its own. So we need to be okay with being jaggedy ass edges as puzzle pieces, figuring out how we fit, not sitting at home shining all of our edges and trying to be perfect and not sharing the struggle.
And realizing that it takes another person's puzzle piece, to really make ours whole. It takes 100-piece puzzle, of the 99 other people and your gifts and their gifts to really create the most beautiful, happiest world we want to live in.
Absolutely.
It's not about the things.
No. And when you see someone else and you think, they're different than me, to recognize that there is no normal.
That's right.
Normal is another one of those beliefs that we've taken on as a truth to make ourselves more comfortable in uncertainty. Right?
Yeah.
So when you see someone that's acting different than you act or believes something different than you believe, you may say to yourself or to others, well, that's not normal. That's not a thing.
Right.
That's
No,
not
it's
a thing.
not. And it's okay.
So I say not wrong, just different.
Yeah.
And so when you see someone that believes something different or acts different than you, to be curious about them and think, well, I wonder how we could fit together, instead of dismissing it as that's not normal.
Right. I have tendency to find the likability between two people. Where do we overlap? But I love people's differences, but I love where we're the same. I love where we can find, common ground and the connection, and I believe that. Oh, but that's fascinating that you don't believe that way. Tell me more about that. Because I think that's how we form, like what's next, and form other ways of being around who we are as people. So,
well, it feels good, right?
It does
when
feel
you're like,
good.
oh my gosh, yes, me too.
We've said it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know we had so much in common.
Oh my gosh,
about the dads.
Tons of things in common. But you know what's really, really frustrating is if you only surround yourself with people that are comfortable and think like you. And
Right. Where's the growth in that?
Yeah.
There is none.
That's where you start to isolate yourself, and now you're like, oh, we're all marbles, and we'll just sit here and be marbles together.
We'll just sit in the bowl.
Yeah.
And like,
I learned the most about differences parenting my son who has attention deficit disorder. And so his school experience was completely different than mine. And
your daughters.
And it caused me to sit back and go, hold on, I have to try to see the world the way he experiences it, instead of me saying, you need to be like me. Because we need to parent the kids we have, not the kids that we were.
Say that again.
We need to parent the kids that we have, not the kids that we were.
That is so true. I love that. I'm going to switch gears on us because I want to hit this in 30 minutes when you have such amazing conversation. It goes really
I
fast.
can talk for 130
But you have so much insight. You are so easy to talk to. We definitely have to bring you on again because you have so many things. But one of the things that I struggled with was the identity factor in my purpose and inside of my role at work.
Okay?
So I always wanted to shove my purpose or shove my job into my purpose and not have my purpose show up inside of my job. I essentially wanted to get paid on my purpose versus allowing them to be a part of each other.
Because you wanted your purpose to be your everything.
Yeah.
How's that working out?
No. No, girl. No, what I found is I found something that I love to do. This is something that I am passionate about because I'm passionate about finding solutions for people. And technology is interesting to me. And I can live out my purpose and my calling over here while it also shows up in my work. They don't have to be simultaneous inside of each other. Or they don't have to be one or the other. They're simultaneously inside of each other. And I find that people struggle with that. So can you talk to that and kind of help people with the separation of two? Because Rise and Thrive has done that for me. It has given me permission to live out my purpose and do a job and have a career that I love that takes care of my family.
Yes. Well, I think we have this expectation because information is available to us all the time everywhere. And we really just want to go on in Amazon Prime to deliver our meaning and purpose. Like, it'll be here by Tuesday.
Please?
Don't steal it off my porch. Right?
I'll pay extra shipping.
Yeah. So we just have this expectation that if everything is available to us all the time, my meaning and purpose should be packaged in my job, and that's going to make it efficient. Well, that's not jaggedy ass edges. That's not the way it works. And so the fact that you're able now to be curious about, okay, what can I learn in this role that I'm in now? How can I show up completely as Amber, like all of you? That's what finding your meaning and purpose is can I show up and be all of me in this role that I have? Because once you create that list of unique gifts and talents, then it's about using them intentionally. And it doesn't have to be like big, huge things. Like one of mine is I'm a great connector.
You are.
Like if I meet you, I'm immediately thinking, oh, you need to meet her and him and go do that, right? Another one of mine is I'm annoyingly positive. But it also helps me have resilience in tough times. It helps me bring that to people that need it from me. So it doesn't have to be like I'm this master cello player in the symphony kind of bigness. Like it can be like these little traits that we package together as who we are and then use them for good.
And you talked about there are 3 steps. So go over the 3 steps where you talk about be curious. What are those?
The first one is be you, all of you. Once you know your unique gifts and talents, the conditions you work best in, then you're using them intentionally to serve another.
Yes.
Whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's
At the
stop to
grocery
get
store.
Starbucks. Yeah, absolutely. So the first one is be you all the time,
And
authentically you.
and unapologetically.
Yeah, because one of the things when I started my business, I had been doing so much like consulting work, like all the stuff. And I thought, oh, well, I have to start a business that does that or people won't think I'm smart. Like I had to
That's an interesting story.
like you have to peel back some stuff, right?
Yeah.
So then I learned I could be me, all of me, which is a lot sometimes. And that's exactly what God wants me, right?
Yeah.
So the second step is then be curious. How do I show up? How can I use my gifts and talents to serve? I'm going to be curious. I'm going to try this, and then I'm going to try this, and then I'm going to engage with this person. Like just move through the world, not afraid of being right or wrong, but curious about what is right.
And when you're being curious, pay attention to what people are saying to you. Because a lot of times if you're struggling to find out what your gifts and talents are, people actually tell you.
Oh my gosh.
People give you the feedback. You are such a light. You know, I've heard people say that to you. I've had people say that to me. You're such a light. Oh, I wonder if that's one of my gifts. And
Because
be
we
curious
think they're
about
no
it.
big deal. But
Right.
somebody else goes, no,
Yeah.
I need that from you.
Thank you for giving that to me.
Absolutely.
And in that, values and your gifts and talents and traits, even the bad ones are a part of that. You've got to give reconciliation to the part that we're just not perfect. And there are some attributes about me that I hate. And they are just who I am. And my poor family, God love them, they're like, my mom's a little on edge. It's not. It's just I'm just like overthinking the next step of what's happening. So it's not that I'm on edge. I'm just like in the moment thinking about what's next, which means I'm not being present.
Right.
Because
you're processing.
Because I'm processing and working out the logistics because there's another thing coming. I mean, I have 5 kids and a husband and work and philanthropy and all those things. So if I'm not doing that, I feel like I'm going to misstep.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Because one of your gifts is your air traffic control and all that, right?
Yes.
And so you've got to be thinking about what plane's about to land.
Yes.
Yeah.
What airstrip are we going to? And what can we move this? It happened today. My husband's like, so how are you going to get there on time? And I'm like, so how about you take me there? And he's like, got it, done. I'm so thankful that he's willing to move the plane.
It is like air traffic control.
I've never heard it that way, but it's so true.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Which is the third thing, which is be connected.
Yeah.
You can't thrive alone. You can't find your meaning and purpose in isolation. That's that whole marble thing. So be you completely unapologetically. Be curious.
Yep.
Move through the world curious about your struggles, about your gifts, and be connected.
I love that. That is so helpful. And moving people towards what's next for them. I think that for this 4-part series, I really want people to be able to be enlightened. This is like the age of enlightenment. We talked about it last week. People are more curious. They want more education. They want to learn more about themselves so that they can make a bigger impact. It's not even bigger. Make your impact.
And when you're learning about yourself, it's not about making yourself more perfect from the marble example, right? So when you're learning about yourself, it's okay to have struggle and things that have gone wrong in your life. I've learned more about myself in the struggle than I have in the mountaintop highs.
In the failure. You know, that is where it's at, I think.
Absolutely.
It's painful, but you gotta go through it to find the knowing.
Yep.
So tell us, so we only have, I think, 5 more minutes left. So I want to talk about you. I want to talk about your business. I want the viewers to know anything about you that
Oh my word.
that will help them and help you.
Thank you.
Of course.
That's connection.
That's right.
I have that gift too. But here's a perfect example of this. You're saying, hey, I love that you showed up as you.
Yep.
And we'd love to be able to showcase how you can show up to serve another. Like you're just inviting that into this space.
That's right.
Whereas some people might have said, oh, that's salesy or marketing, whatever. No, I want to show up and serve in some way. And you're saying, hey, let me have
That's your
this
ministry,
space
girl. That's what
to
you do.
it.
It's who you are. And I'm gonna take advantage of that for you all.
Yeah. So I have a podcast
Yeah.
called the Badass Women's Council. That's probably the easiest, quickest way to engage with me. And so
it's amazing. You interview some of the most incredible people. And who knew that we have so many, I mean, you interview people from all over, but we have incredible talented people here in the city too, and I love that because you capitalize on that.
Absolutely. I want to really elevate people in this mid-market city like Indianapolis. So thank you for acknowledging that. So podcast Badass Women's Council is one way to engage. My company, WEthrive.live, executive coaching, consulting for small and mid-sized business, and then the Rise and Thrive experience that you're in. We have an event coming up.
Yes.
On March the 5th at the Cabaret Theater in Indianapolis, where Amber and her cohorts with Rise and Thrive are going to be standing tall in their story, doing 7-minute TED Talk-like presentations, and it's going to be so good.
No, I really am excited about it.
Because the whole idea is when you stand tall in your story, you give others permission to do so. And there will be so many people there that night that will need to hear something that you say.
Yeah, that's typically how it happens. So I'm excited. So of course, I just love you to death. Like, and it is a God thing that you showed up in my life when you did.
Oh my gosh, so much so.
Yes, and so I'm very thankful for that. And it is just continuing to, look, you have helped me uncover more about myself. Then it was like the next level for me. I've done a lot of work previously, and I want that for other people. If you're searching, did you know that we have people here in the city looking and able to help you in that?
That's the thing about coaching is sometimes people think it's like the guy standing on the sidelines with a whistle, like do this, do that. I'm just here to hold up a mirror and say, you already got it all, girl.
That's right.
Like you're already freaking fabulous. Let me just help you see how great you really are. That's my job.
And you talk about that because you don't just help women.
No, don't just help women. It's my specialty.
Yeah.
No. So anyone that's really wanting to either take their career to the next level, or change careers. That's one of my favorite things to do is help them uncover more about their meaning and purpose so that they're getting into a career that's more aligned. There's lots of reasons to hire a coach.
I have zero regrets, but I do kind of wish I had met you 20 years ago. It would have been different. You would have been
20 years ago. I was probably in a bar somewhere smoking cigarettes.
That's
and doing
where I was. So.
One surprise with it,
not Fireball. It was the aftershock.
that was 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Totally.
20 years ago. But we were talking about this before, and I have no shame around this today, but I've had 15 jobs in 17 years.
And I was like,
yeah, because I marked that one off the list. Mark that one off.
That is because you did see that as a negative. I'm like, no, that means you're curious. You're trying some different things. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I've been in my niche that I've been in now for like 8 years, and it's every new job is like the next level, the next level, the next level.
But you're learning more about yourself.
Yeah. So I give permission to all of the young kids out there, have as many jobs as you want. Like go figure it out. Go work at all the different places until you figure out.
And if your mom or your uncle or your aunt says you need to get a real job, you just smile politely and ignore all that.
Yes. Figure out what works best for you. We have a 19-year-old at home. We're working through that with him. And there's no pressure, right? You get to choose college if that's what you want. Or you can go get a job. Just take care of yourself, and figure out what's next.
And be curious about what do you love to do? What are you talented in?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother program.
A whole
nother program.
Absolutely.
So we are so thankful. I'm sorry that we didn't get to any questions, but we were one phone down tonight. However, Rebecca will be available tonight. Are there any that we can address? Okay. So if there are any on there, you can go on and like them and view them. And so next week, we are so excited to be with you again. Hopefully Joshua will be back and on his game and feeling good, and his mama will be better. We miss you tonight. We love you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in at the Truth Revival at 7 p.m.